Alright, we're going to be ranking all of the major navies from Mega Man Battle Network. So we're basically going to do all these. We're not going to do the programs of the normal navies. But yeah, let's get started. So the criteria for this will be the Navi chips, like if they're a good chip or if I like the chip. The design of the Navi itself, including like what it's like to fight them if they have a fight, and then also the operator and story of their character will kind of play into the ranking as well. Those will be the three kind of major criteria. And so we're going to start with the man himself, Mega Man, and I'm going to, of course, put him in S tier. But, that's not just because he's the main character. It's, I think, really how they did this game as a whole. Mega Man is... we all love Mega Man, but, the Mega Man Battle Network series, sort of taking it out of the real world and taking it away from robotics to be, a story of one where it's in the real world and you're doing stuff on the net, but then Mega Man and all the Navis are on the net. I just think that's such a cool concept, and I think it sort of captured the future sort of reality pretty accurately. We all have cell phones now, and we all spend a lot of time on the net regardless, especially compared to when this game first came out. So I feel like it really kind of predicted the future in some interesting ways. And just the idea of having Mega Man be a partner to LAN, that technology is really supposed to be something that helps us, but it also kind of represents us, and is sort of like it captures our soul in a way. So then to find out that Mega Man is actually LAN's brother in a Navi form, and that's why they get along so well, and that's why they're sort of seem to be in sync all at the time. I just think that's so cool, and yeah, so that's Mega Man. Oh, actually, I should also mention that Mega Man doesn't have his own chip. Obviously, he has the Mega Buster. I guess I could gauge that, but I'm not really gonna count that. Okay, so yeah, so that's kind of Mega Man's story element and kind of his operator. LAN is fine, but it's really all about how Mega Man is supposed to relate to LAN that sort of makes the game fun and interesting and novel. So that's kind of the story element. And then as far as, obviously, it doesn't have a battleship to use, so then it's just about the design, which I think is, I think it's a good design. It's kind of a take on the classic Mega Man, obviously, but it's sort of, they redesigned it a little bit so that he's on the internet, so that's cool. But I think the story and everything and the character really kind of pulls it into that S rank. That's where that S is really coming from. So then we have Roll, and Roll is, so I guess starting from her chip is decent in the beginning of the game, because sometimes if you're having trouble against a boss or something, the little bit of extra health can kind of come in handy. But for the most part, especially towards the end of the game, the chip is not very useful. And her design is fine, but unfortunately we don't actually get to see her on the grid. We don't fight her, we don't get to see her fight anybody else or do anything like that. So she sort of loses points for that, unfortunately, because they could have had her do a little bit more there, but they didn't, and that's kind of too bad. And then for her story elements, she's kind of the classic damsel in distress, so she's not super interesting. She does kind of come in and help Mega Man out with the at the end of the game. But for the most part, she's not really doing a whole lot to help out. Like, she's not as much of a partner. And then the whole, like, thing with Mail and Lan, like, that just sort of felt like a little silly, because these characters, like, just clearly don't really like each other all that much. Like, Mail is Lan's friend for some reason, even though he doesn't treat her very well, and Lan just clearly is annoyed by Mail, so, like, they shouldn't be love interests, and they should barely even be friends. So I think, unfortunately, Roll is going to have to go in D tier. Like, if they give us some more Roll action or a better chip, maybe that would have pushed her up a little bit, but the character is not my favorite, or at least the character of Mail is not my favorite. Roll is sort of fine, but we just don't get to see her very much, so she has to be in D. And Glide, I like Yai's character. Yai's pretty funny. Like, I like the little, like, that she's, like, younger than everybody else, but she gets all the good grades, so she got to, like, skip a grade and everything, and then she just gets to be this kind of busybody. It's just really funny to me, and, like, I like doing her voice during the games. But Glide is kind of annoying, because it's like, he's a butler Navi, and yet, like, our first interaction with him, we had to do chores for him. Like, come on, dude. And then, like, he doesn't even have a chip. Like, what are you doing? D tier. Like, come on, dude. I guess he did help us out a little bit at the end, but yeah. Gutsman's pretty fun. Gutsman, I've always liked Dex's character, like having a rival for Lan that just like, acts tough, but is really just a total pushover. And, like, Gutsman's a pretty fun Navi. His chip didn't seem as good in this game as it has in other games. For some reason, I'm not sure what that's about. And he's also just a total pushover to fight. His design is kind of fun. I think I'll put him in B tier. I think that's pretty fair. She's almost just too much of a pushover to put in A tier, and his chip is not all that useful, but he's definitely a fun character. Woodman is also a pretty fun character. I like him. Like his design is great. Like, the fact that he's so large, and then the battle against him is kind of interesting, because, you know, you can kill him pretty quickly, but his attacks are pretty hard to dodge, so, like, you kind of get that sort of give and take. And then his operator is kind of fun too, like with the lunches and everything. Like, I kind of enjoyed that. I think I'll also put him in B tier, because his chip is fine. I honestly don't remember using his chip that much. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do with that. Sharkman is interesting. I'm not really sure what's going on with his operator, like what his character is supposed to be. Like, I think it's maybe kind of like a cultural thing. Like, I don't really get it, but like the fisherman kind of thing. But Sharkman's pretty cool. Like, his fight is, like, particularly challenging. He's got, you know, he goes underwater, and then his fins are really quick and hard to dodge, but they also block you from attacking him. Like he's a tougher Navi, and his chip is also really good. Like, and there's definitely that sense of accomplishment for, like, beating Sharkman and, like, getting a good enough busting level to get the chip. So, like, I'm gonna put him in A tier. I think he's kind of a cut above the rest of those. Skullman's fun. I really like Skullman's design. Like, Skullman has, you know, the big kind of skull face going on, which is really cool. Like, he doesn't actually look like a human skull, which is kind of interesting. Like, he has his own thing going on. And his chip is a lot of fun to use. Like, who doesn't want to, like, drop a giant skull on somebody? But, like, other than that, though, I think it's a little tricky, because his fight's not really all that interesting. Like, at the beginning of the game, he can be kind of challenging, because his attacks do a lot of damage, but other than that, it's like, he's kind of, like, after like the first time you face him or whatever, he's not really that difficult because his attacks aren't terribly difficult to dodge. So you kind of get the hang of it. So yeah, I think I'll put him in B tier. I think his chip is fun, his design is fun. His operator's kind of cool, like the antique store thing and the obsession with death, like that's fun. But yeah, I think the fight's just not quite challenging enough or interesting enough to give him higher than that. Proto Man, I love Proto Man. Like the whole thing with Chowd in this game, Proto Man, like that was so cool to me. Like that Chowd would be this official net battler. Like he'd be a professional despite being Lan's age, and he'd just be a jerk to Lan. Like I just love that idea. Like he's not, like he has to kind of learn and grow into being a proper partner for Lan, you know. But like he doesn't really respect Lan at first because it seems like Lan is kind of getting in the way. Like there's a whole like water chapter and everything, and like Lan like tries to fix it, but just also ends up kind of making it worse at the same time. And then the whole thing with Elec Man, like, you know, Mega Man kind of accidentally destroys Elec Man so that they weren't able to like rescue the data and everything and do what they needed to do to find the World 3 and all that. So like Chowd kind of has a reason to not like Lan, but like he kind of realizes when he loses to Lan and with the whole World 3 stuff that like, you know, Lan has to be respected in some kind of way. And Proto Man's also really cool. Like his chip is pretty good, although you have to kind of line it up right, which is a little annoying. But the fight with Proto Man is really fun. Like I really like how in the fights they actually encourage you to kind of use sword chips or like short range chips against him, because he'll sort of use his shield to block everything else, but then he's vulnerable like right before he attacks and right after he attacks, so you can hit him with short range chips more easily. So like, I don't know, I like love everything about Proto Man. He's going in S tier. Fireman's interesting. Fireman is like, I like Fireman as kind of the first boss. I think he's pretty, I think he fits the kind of first boss mold, you know? Like he's not difficult, and his design is not super intimidating or anything. But like his operator is super funny. Like he's just gonna go in and like trick people into thinking that he's fixing their ovens when he's actually like sabotaging them. Like that's pretty cool. Like that was a good idea. And like, yeah. So I like it. Mr. Mesh is like one of my favorite operators, especially because he comes back in subsequent games to give Lan a hard time. Like, and yeah, like Fireman's design is not that interesting. Like, but he's got the cool looking fire attack. Like, and then his chip is actually pretty good for like that early in the game too. So like, so yeah, I think he deserves A tier, even though he's not super difficult, because he's kind of not supposed to be at that stage of the game. Numberman's a little tricky too, honestly. I think I could see what they were trying to do for Numberman in terms of his fight and everything. Like I like the story thing with the you know, that they're gonna go into the classroom and do this like indoctrination program. Like that's crazy. Like that's kind of above and beyond. It's like what you really need to do for a story like this. So it's like, I don't know, I really like that. And his operator is really fun too. Higsby's funny to me, like with the chip collecting and everything, and that he just joined the World 3 so he could get more money to get rare chips. Like that's really cool. It's just, yeah, it's kind of this silly character, which I appreciate. Yeah, I think the problem is though, is like Numberman himself is just not a very good Navi. Like he's always like easy to beat, and he's kind of early in the game, so that kind of makes sense. But like But like even there, it seems like you could see what they were trying to do with like the number based attacks, but like he just stands in the back in the same spot, so he's easy to hit. Like his attacks are fairly easy to avoid. I just, yeah, and then his chip is also kind of interesting because it can do a lot of damage, but it's very RNG based, so it's not very reliable, which like is kind of difficult to sort of justify with your Navi chips because you don't get very many Navi chips. So like you want your Navi chips to be like powerful and kind of consistent and stuff. So like, yeah, I mean, I think like Number Man's like almost like too lame, like to put higher than C tier, which I kind of feel bad about because I really like his operator, his story and everything, but like the actual fight itself and everything in the chip is not great and not one that I really wanted to use. Stone Man is kind of similar. Like I like Stone Man's design, like, and the fact that he just talks by kind of grinding rocks together or whatever. Like that's really funny. But like all he does is just block the metro line. Like that's not like real villain shit, Like you need to do something a little more consequential than just like holding up people's transportation. Like people already, like I'm in the U.S., so like, people be used to that already. To have transportation things be late or not working or whatever, like that's not really. You're not really causing very legitimate harm. Like maybe in Japan that would like throw everybody into a frenzy, but like yeah, in other places in the world it's kind of the norm. So like that's pretty lame. And the fight is fun too. Like I like but it's like Number Man is pretty easy because he just stays there in the back and doesn't really move. And his attacks are like a bit harder to dodge. But yeah, like, and I also like how big he is. So like there's elements of his design that I appreciate. But his chip is kind of annoying, honestly, because like it really seems like it should hit more than it does, but it just doesn't. It's like always misses like at least 2 if not 3 of the freaking things. So like yeah, I have to put him in C tier. Like that's kind of, yeah, you're just not, like you're barely avoiding D tier based on like the design alone, really. Iceman's pretty cool. Like we actually got like basically 2 whole chapters out of that whole waterworks business. So that's kind of interesting. And like the whole kidnapping, and like he's actually kind of joining World 3 for legitimate reasons, unlike Higsby. And like I really enjoyed the fight with the Iceman too. He was like really challenging to beat, and like I very nearly lost to him the first time, but then I was able to make a comeback, and it was exhilarating. Like he's a really challenging fight, especially for that point in the game, and the kind of chips that you're getting at that point like are not doing you very many favors against this guy just because of the way that he fights. So and then a chip I didn't really use, but I think I'm still just going to put him in A tier because we got like a lot of good story out of him and a really good fight out of him. So I think he sort of deserves that. So Colorman's interesting. Like I kind of like Colorman's design. Like I'm not, like a lot of people don't like clowns. I'm not super opposed to them or anything, but I kind of liked his design with the fight and everything. I like the kind of Godfrey Daniels style, like ball bouncing around. Like even though that kind of maybe made him a bit easier to hit, like it wasn't the hardest attack to dodge. I'm not sure what the whole idea was with the like red and blue things with the fire and water. Like I don't know what that has to do with clowns. So that was kind of weird, but yeah, I could appreciate a clown Navi. And I liked his story as well. Like the whole trolley thing where like the cars are crashing into each other and we had to jack into all those traffic lights in order to stop him. Like that was pretty cool. And just seeing the seeing the cartoon cars just run into each other and explode, like, oh no, like that was just some good kind of hijinks stuff, like that. Just and then she freaking like blackmails people and like sells them this expensive software to like stop their cars from crashing. Like that's true villain behavior right there. So like I think I have to put him in B tier at least. Like his chip is not that great though. I don't like having to like line up like yeah, I don't know. I didn't love that. So the fire and water stuff kind of brings him down a little bit, I think. But other than that, he's cool. Elec Man, I felt like his story wasn't as interesting. His operator was a lot of fun. Like I liked that energy. Like he's gonna be the entertainment for the evening by like turning off all the lights and stuff and having that reflective like fireman like gear, which is kind of fun. But yeah, I feel like just sort of trapping people in this underground or underwater restaurant thing, that is, I don't know, I didn't feel like that was nearly as interesting as some of the other stuff in this game. And then all the battery stuff that you had to do, that was just kind of annoying. But the fight against Elec Man is kind of interesting. Like, he's kind of a classic Navi, right? And his attacks do a ton of damage, but they're really not very difficult to dodge. And I actually lost against Elec Man the first time, so I feel like... And his chip is also really good, but I feel like his story is kind of bringing him down a little bit for me. So I think I'm going to put him in B. I think that about balances out, because his chip is really, really good. But for that point in the game, I guess you would kind of expect that a little bit. But yeah, he's kind of, he's like a classic Navi, but he's like, it kind of balances out. Bomb Man. Bomb Man's interesting because, like, the story leading up to Bomb Man is really kind of cool. Like, you're talking to, you're finding all those former World 3 members and they're, like, flipping for you and everything. Like, that was really pretty cool. Like, that was clever. But unfortunately, it didn't have a whole lot to do with Bomb Man. Like, because Bomb Man's just kind of there, and he's just, he blows up the road, which is, like, really smart on his part. Like, Land didn't think he was very smart, but I thought that was kind of clever. Like blowing up the road so that we literally just had to find some other way to get to the World 3 hideout, so that was pretty effective. And the fight's pretty challenging too. Like, for some reason those cross bomb things just messed with my brain. Like, I really had trouble dodging those. And like, yeah, the way that he moves around, like, he's frustrating to fight against. I think the thing that's kind of bringing him down for me a little bit is like the design. Like, I don't love the way that he looks. It's like, it's what it is, but I'm just not super inspired by it. And his chip is also kind of annoying to use because, like, again, like, I should be able to aim it better, but it just, like, having to aim a chip that, it comes from a Navi that late in the game is a little annoying, because, like, you get it a little bit off or whatever, the enemy moves or something, and it's like, dang it. But yeah, he's... Oh, where to put him? I guess I'll put him in B tier. I think that's fine. Magic Man is kind of disappointing because his operator doesn't really do much of anything, and like the stuff leading up to him, kind of like Bomb Man, is like stuff leading up to him is pretty good, but like he's not really actually involved in any of it. He just comes in at the last second to like try to mess things up for you, and we get almost nothing from his operator. So that's kind of a letdown to begin with. And then the fight is like not that interesting either, because he summons those viruses, but then all he does aside from that is just do fire in a straight line, and then he just stands in the back and like only disappears when he's summoning the viruses. And I'm also just not like a huge fan of his design, because like I can appreciate a wizard Navi, like I enjoy that, but the problem is like Like, he just doesn't look as cool as like a wizard Navi should look, in my opinion. Like, I don't know. Like, he should have like a staff or something else. Like, he should do something else in the fight against him. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Magic Man, and his chip is kind of weird. Like, again, like I was saying before, like, you only get 5 spots for Navi chips, so I don't love like trying to roll the dice on a Navi chip. So I didn't really use his chip very much, especially since he's kind of at the end of the game anyway, so you're not really, like by the time you can get to him in the net, you know, it's a bit later on, so I didn't end up using his chip very much, and I don't love his design or his fight or his story, so yeah. And he also tries to kill Mega Man, so he's gonna go to the bottom. Sorry, bud. Life Virus. Life Virus is interesting. I really like the Life Virus design. Like, that just looks pretty cool. Like, that looks like a proper Mega Man boss, you know? A proper Mega Man final boss, even. And, like, the fact that he was made from all the different elements and he has his life aura, that's pretty cool. I think the problem is that his fight is just not hard enough for a final boss fight. Like, the life aura is a thing, like, that certainly hampers you, and the little viruses that he has helping him out are kind of annoying, but, like, overall his attacks aren't that difficult to dodge, and, like, 1,000 health isn't really that much for that point in the game. Like, I don't know, it's certainly more than others, but, like, yeah, it's in my opinion, it's just not difficult enough to justify for a final boss. And then his chip, which you technically are able to get eventually once you do everything else, and, you know, even though you get it from somebody else, but like, it's the Life Virus chip, so I'm gonna give that to the Life Virus. I think that's fair. The chip itself is not useful at all. Like, because by the time you get it in the game, basically everybody is going to deal you 100 damage, because you already have, like, the armor and everything, so, like, it really doesn't block anything. Like, it's really kind of too bad, because it's basically the last chip that you get in the game, and it's just, by the time you get it, you can't use it for anything, so he has some cool things about him, too. I think I'll put him... I'll put him in A tier. It's cool enough for A tier, but unfortunately it's sort of... he's just not difficult enough to really kind of break into any higher than that. Pharaoh Man. I like Pharaoh. Like for these last 3, they don't really have stories or operators. We just find them on the net, which is pretty cool. They're like kind of bonus navies. Like, I really appreciate that sort of, like, kind of post-game kind of stuff. Pharaoh Man is pretty fun. I really enjoyed his kind of... I mean, he's a freaking Egyptian pharaoh. Like, that's just cool. You know, and his fight's really interesting with, like, the coffins that open up, and then is it a laser, is it a mouse, you know, is, like, different things that can come out. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, he's a pretty easy fight because he stays in the back row and moves so slowly and everything, and most of the attacks are kind of easy to dodge. So, like, he's not difficult, but, like, I don't know, I just enjoyed finding him on the net, and, like, you know, go into this area, like, you think it's a dead end, but, like, actually he's at the end of it, and then you can get his chip, and he actually has 2 chips. He has the Anubis chip, and he has the Pharaoh Man chip. And the Pharaoh Man chip's not all that useful, but the Anubis is kind of fun. Like, so I can appreciate that. So I think he deserved A tier as well. I think he's just a fun one. Like, I can't count it against him that he doesn't have a bigger story, because I feel like kind of the benefit of these bonus navies is that it's like, you know, they don't really have much of a story, but that's kind of the point. Like, they're a little more mysterious, so I feel like I get a pass for that. Shadow Man's super fun. I love Shadow Man's design, like just a ninja that, and I love Shadow Man because I kind of forgot he was in this game until I found him, and then that kind of blew me away a little bit. And like unfortunately his fight is not all that interesting because he doesn't have as many attacks. Like the shuriken thing is kind of, it's tricky to dodge at first, and then you kind of get the hang of it and you can do it most of the time. And so like but yeah, I don't know. I love his design, and his chip is really, really, really good. Like it just wrecks everything in its path. So yeah, I mean, definitely like high A tier there. I don't know if he really quite deserves S tier, because I think his fight got more interesting in the subsequent games and everything. But yeah, I just always love Shadow Man. I just think it's so cool to have like a ninja Navi, you know. And then finally we have Base. Base is just also another one of those designs that I just always loved, like the really mysterious kind of cloak and everything, and you know, the fact that he's just in this game too is like really kind of special in a way. And like he's the last Navi you come across, like once you've gotten all the chips. Like you can't even fight him until you have all the chips, and then he still beat me that first time. Like even after I'd gotten like all these HP memories and like all these other power-ups and all the chips, like he still beat me the first time. And because his attacks do so much damage and they're so difficult to dodge, and then you sort of figure out the trick, which is that you have to hit him at the right moment so that he can't get off his big attacks that are so difficult to avoid. So like, and then he also has the aura too. So like, yeah, and his design in this game in particular, where he's like darker and everything, like it's just so like intimidating and just appropriate for the character and everything, and appropriate for like the last Navi that you fight. And then he has like the download chip that's like wrecks everything. Like it's like basically the best chip aside from maybe Shadow Man, like 200 points of damage. It just hits everything. Yeah, like I think that's just an appropriate kind of end piece to the game. Like it's just so S tier. Like you can't really do any better than that. Like I don't think there's anything about him that I would really improve. Exactly. So there you have it. There's my ranking of all the Navis in the game. Looking forward to playing Mega Man Battle Network 2.